Hey everyone, welcome to King Family Farm. My name is Shannon. It is Sunday the 23rd? Something like that. Anyways, 24th, maybe? It's the weekend before Easter. And I was just outside plowing. My husband's out there finishing off because I've just had enough. So I'm going to make something that I don't make very often because these days the ingredients for it are a little bit pricey. It's called Pouding Chômeur, which is translated to pudding for the unemployed, which during the Depression probably was true, but it contains maple syrup, heavy cream, milk, eggs, but in rural Quebec and like northwestern New Brunswick where I am, very French area, you would have had your own maple trees that you were tapping, you were doing the work, and that's the sugar you would have had available. I think the original recipe was made with brown sugar. I've only ever had it made with maple syrup, so that's what we're doing. So I have 1.5 cups of maple syrup and 1.5 cups of heavy cream. I know that looks like almost like Guinness with way too much head on it, but that's not what it is. And we're gonna warm that up in a saucepan, but first we're gonna make the cake. So I'm just gonna measure out my ingredients. I've got 3/4 of a cup of milk. All of these measuring cups assume that I'm left-handed, and I'm not, because they want you to use metric, and most of the recipes I use are not metric. Okay, 3/4 of a cup of milk. We need a splash of vanilla. It's a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Also not cheap these days. But I quite often find that a lot of recipes that would have been considered vanilla, and we're just gonna go, that looks good. A lot of the recipes that would have been cooked during the Depression, you find a lot of recipes for things like lobster, which is not poor man's food now. Things that include maple syrup. But at the end of the day, what they're giving you are recipes that are made with things that are completely scratch made. That you would have, if you have a farm, you've got a cow, or your neighbor has a cow at the very least, so you have access to the ingredients that we're using here, and you would have had maple syrup, and you would have tapped your trees. You wouldn't have wasted that resource. So this is the end of the 2023 syrup, which I'm thrilled with. We made it all the way through the year, considering how poor the season was last year. We did really well making it to this point. I've just finished 3 boils of syrup, like finished, and I've got 17 liters to get me so far this year, to get me to this time next year. We are in a cold snap. It was like -14 last night. We got a foot of snow. I know a little bit further south of us in like a rustic, they got more like 2 feet of snow. We just didn't get that. So I'm gonna get one more run, maybe one more run of syrup. So I'm hoping for possibly like another gallon, which an American gallon is 3.7 liters. A British gallon, or like Canadian gallon, would be 4 liters. So that's what I'm hoping for. So this is my vanilla. I buy the beans from Indri Vanilla and mix them with good vodka, and away we go. All right, so I'm going to, in a separate bowl, blah, 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 blah. I haven't made this in a while, so I have a recipe, which I'll link below. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a cake, and we're gonna spread it in a baking dish. This is the dish I like using for this type of thing. And then we're gonna pour the sauce over top, which is just cream and maple syrup. Heat it up, pour it on, and then we're gonna bake it. And the cake is gonna rise through the sauce. And it's gonna be like one of those, Knorr make them or Sharif make them. I don't remember. When I was a kid, my mom used to make these. It came in a box and it was called sauce and cake. And essentially that's what this is, except from scratch, without all the other weird stuff in it. And it's real flavor. So I like that kind of thing. All right. I changed the camera angle so you could actually see what I'm doing. So we need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I don't get super precise with that. It's kind of half-ish. Okay, 1.5. All right, and we need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Just like that. All right. So done with that. I have not cleaned up my kitchen because
I've been chopping in the trees.
You've been what?
I've been chopping in the trees.
Oh, cool.
So you can get your trees.
So we're just gonna whisk this just to kind of incorporate the ingredients a little bit. Put it aside. The next ingredients are 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. Well, it's going to be salted, too bad, because that's what I have defrosted. So I haven't cleaned up my kitchen from doing all the maple syrup, but my family's got to eat, so I'm going to put this together, and then I'm going to clean up my kitchen while this is cooking. We're actually going to barbecue supper tonight, but this is dessert. So here we are. It's not always perfect, but that's what it looks like. All right, 1/2 cup. So that's 1 cup. That's 1/2 cup. So there's another ingredient that makes this not particularly cheap anymore. Why we call it Pouding Chômeur. I think you could probably make it with oil, but butter. All right, 1/2 cup of butter. 1 cup of granulated sugar. So my sugar has kind of crystallized a little bit. So I'm going to sift it because it's kind of chunky. But I don't want to waste it. So, alright. Over the bowl. You can see this was just a last minute thing. Get this out of the way. 1/2 cup. So usually what I do is I like sift it and then see what didn't make it through. Press as much as I can. And then it's like a tablespoon that didn't quite make it. Which we'll save. I mean, I don't have a problem saving it. Alright. Because I can use it for other things like caramel because it's going to melt and it'll be just fine. Alright. I'm going to cream that together. I'm going to go put it on my stand mixer. It's noisy. So I'm going to cream this together until it's really light and fluffy. So that's what it looks like. I wouldn't call it super light and fluffy, but it's good enough. So we're going to add eggs one at a time while it's mixing. If you've ever used farm fresh eggs, you know that you need to crack them in a bowl first, just in case there's something you don't like. So we're just going to speed this up. Let it go. Crack this one. So I'm just going to scrape these sides down a bit because it's Probably the one thing that I'm not super fond of with this particular mixer, although I love my mixer, is it doesn't grab the sides very well. So now I'm going to put in half these dry ingredients. Don't get super fussed about it. About half. Turn it on. And we're just going to combine that. Then we're going to add the milk with the vanilla. And then the other half of the dry ingredients, more dishes, and just stir that in just until combined. So we scraped the bowl down just a couple times just to make sure everything got really incorporated. And I'm just going to scrape this spatula off. The oven has heated to 400 degrees. Just save as much of this as we can. And ready. Put that aside. So, my baking dish, I buttered it. And I'm going to pour cake batter into the bottom of this. I know it seems counterintuitive to put the cake in first and the sauce on top when the sauce is actually going to end up on the bottom, but it's like kind of a cool little sciencey type magic trick. So we spread that out fairly evenly. You guys, there. Spread that out fairly evenly, just like that. So you don't want to heat the cream too fast or it's just going to boil right over. So we're just going to get the right utensil and stir this as it heats up. And we want to just bring it to a boil. And then we're going to pour it over top of the cake. Do not stir, and very carefully transfer that to the oven. So we're just heating this up real slow. I'm just going to, because I'm actually hovering, I'm going to turn the heat up a bit. You don't want to do this on high. Excuse my stove. We've been busy cleaning up and doing spring things, and then we ended up doing winter things again because it decided to snow, and of course it's going to rain in 2 days, which means it's going to turn into ice. So, but here we are. We're just, that's almost to a boil. I can feel it. There it goes. So it's at a boil. Turn off the heat. And I know this seems real counterintuitive, but here we go. And we just pour this real gently over the top. And I think this is going to have to go on a baking sheet because I feel like this is just going to boil right over. Go. I'm going to put this on an old cookie sheet that I don't actually like. I think that's wise. It smells so good already. So we're just going to center that. 400 degree oven for 45 minutes. So we'll put this in the oven and we'll see you when it's finished. Try not to spill it everywhere. Yeah. Whoop. I did anyways. Oh well. And that's why I have a cookie sheet. So this is not a recipe I have made specifically before. 45 minutes, way too long. I put it in, I stopped it at 39 minutes because I could smell it and I thought it had boiled over. The top is a little overdone. It still tastes good though. So, it's a little darker than I'd like. However, it's still delicious, I'm sure. So you can see she's a little dark on the one side. But essentially, scoop yourself a piece of cake. Like that. And then you have, in the bottom, you have all this sauce. So, looks delicious. Got it on my fingers. Smells delicious. It's really, really, really hot. So, it's really good. So, I would just cook it a little bit less. And to be quite honest, for the sauce, you could probably get away with doing like a cup of cream and a cup of maple syrup instead of a cup and a half of each, because there's probably way more sauce here than is necessary. But this is just so good. I hope you try this recipe. It's a great way to use your maple syrup that you've produced. There is an option that if you don't have maple syrup, and if you live in the South, I know you don't have maple syrup, or it's very expensive. You can make it with brown sugar, so I will include those instructions down below. So thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you here next time on the farm.